Hey folks, I wanted to take some time to put together a quick video of my driving license experience in Illinois. I've been living in the States for a couple of years, finally got around over the last 2 weeks to going from like provisional or the like driver's permit, and then just today I passed the full like road test. Overall, I found the whole thing very convoluted. Like where I'm from in Ireland, it's a very straightforward system. Like everything's detailed really well online. Like for each thing, like where to go, like what's going to be tested. It's very like streamlined. Over here, maybe it's just because most people do it when they're like teenagers or that they go through an actual like formal process. It's simpler for them, but I found it particularly difficult just to piece together the pieces of knowledge of like where to go, like um basically what's on tests. So I wanted to take like a couple of minutes here just to give a bit of a quick run through of some of the best resources I found. Basically, that enabled me to go from having nothing here that allowed me legally to be able to drive to, again, today, like passing the full test. So, again, like when you Google it, you'll come across a couple of like websites where it shows you like in a lot of words what you need to do. Um, but what I'll try and do here is like really simplify it for you. So with that, step number one to even get started, if you want to go to like a driving school or anything else, is going to be trying to get your driver's permit. So there is, like essentially, again, there's loads of websites that will point you towards like what's needed per age group. I'm in like the over 21 group, so essentially just for like trying to get started, you will need to bring a load of documents to the Secretary of State office. You need to meet eligibility requirements. Essentially, you should be able to meet those. Um, you're not going to be taking the well, maybe you will be, but I would probably suggest that you don't like do this the same day. But if you want to do the driving test the same day, you're going to need to produce insurance. I'll go through that in a minute. And then you'll need to pay, I think it's like 20, 25 bucks. So day one, all I need to do is turn up to the Secretary of State office. There's one downtown near like the Thompson Center. And you're going to bring the required documents. I'll show those in a second. And then you pay a fee. And with that, you're going to take the written test, which is very straightforward, and you do a vision test as well, super straightforward. So for preparing for the written test, which is one thing that you'll need to do at the Secretary of State office, um, it's kind of outlined here. It's like 35 questions, 15 go over traffic signs, the other 20 are true or false. When I took it in September of 2023, you need to get 28 out of 35 correct. If you get the first 28 correct, the thing just ends and it gives you like a green check mark and you're good to go. So the written exam, very straightforward. It is worth putting in a couple hours of like study because there's a few tricky ones in there. If you got 4 or 5 of those, you're leaving yourself with not too much like wiggle room between the 28 to 35. So the app I use, I think it's on Android and iOS, was this one. I found it really good. Like essentially it gives you like a bank of like 300 plus questions, and day one, I'd recommend just go through all the 300 ones that you're like, that's super simple. There's a little button on the question to say like, I know this, and it'll like disappear then or get like filtered out of your like study bank. And then in the days leading up to you actually doing the exam at the Secretary of State office, just revise the ones that you didn't know on day one. And as you start to learn them again, you might be down to 10 questions where it's like braking distance, speeds in certain areas, and other like nuances that you just need to like kind of learn off by heart. So for the written test, you can use this app, and I think it's like really, really good. What else did I want to go through here? The written exam is very straightforward. Visual screening Takes about 30 seconds. You go up to a desk again in the same office, and you keep your glasses on if you're like me as well. And they ask you to like read off of like a chart you'd see in like a TV show, where it's like read the bottom row, and I think they're looking for you to get most of those correct. And then they do something with like peripheral vision, where they'll like flash a light on the left. You say if you see it or not, and they'll flash a light in like two sides. You have to pick where you saw it. So super, super simple. So when you go to the Secretary of State office, there's a couple of things that you're gonna want to bring with you. Let me find them. Things you want to bring are like written signatures. So like if you have a social security card, that will do you for group A and group C. So I recommend bring that if you have it. For date of birth, you can use if you have like a green card or like a state ID already or one of these other elements, bring that. And then for residency, just to prove that you live in the state of Illinois, you're required to bring one of these. If you want the real ID, and I recommend getting this just because as you fly across the country, it'll mean that you can bring this instead of your passport or another permanent resident card. You just bring two forms of residency. So like a utility bill and a credit card or bank statement, all of those will do you, or your lease. So yeah, kind of step one, turn up to the Secretary of State office. There's a link here to show you where those offices are, but there's one right downtown in Chicago. There, just have your documents ready. You'll then need to do the vision test. Super, super straightforward. And then learn off your questions for the written test. So once you finish that, you'll have paid your $25. You have a little sheet of paper in hand that is your driving permit. That then lets you drive with insurance on the road with a fully qualified driver in the front seat. So there's some little nuances to that, but essentially you can start to get in the road and practice. For me, I wanted to essentially do one or two lessons with a school or a driving instructor, just so that they'd A, correct me if I was making mistakes, and then B, tell me like what's on the test. So essentially what I did was, and it was difficult to get through to some of these companies, was I hit up the top like 4 or 5 different schools here that were like around the city. I like narrowed into like around the loop here, and clicked onto each of their websites, looked at like pricing, timing, location is going to be important. You can't legally drive to somewhere, it's going to be difficult to get to some of these spots. But yeah, I emailed a couple of these companies. Essentially, only one came back, but they were the number one recommended company, Nova Driving School. Um, I did one of their adult courses. So they have a bunch here, which is like if you're a new beginner and you want to do a load of lessons, you can do that. I went for one that involved like a couple hours behind the wheel and then the road test. So what you are kind of choosing between is how many hours you want someone to be in the car with you as you're learning. And again, for this, you don't need insurance. You're under their insurance policy, which takes away some of the complexity. So you have lessons in the car with them, and then you get the road test. So you get to use one of their cars. All their cars across the fleet, from what I saw, were the exact same. They're these kind of like Kia Souls, I think they are. And again, that just eases your stress day off. It's just like, you know, the car you've been practicing in is going to be the same one. Just makes things nice. So you get their car as well for the test. So yeah, I went with that sort of package. Their offices are located out near like Wicker Park in Chicago, so they're on the blue line, super easy to get to. And yeah, would recommend. All the instructors were really good. We drove for like 2 hours around the city. And on one lesson, actually went out to the driving test center in Elston for the second. Did the course a bunch of times. It's not a complex course, but it just gives you comfort for essentially knowing how the lay of the land is, like how the roads are laid out. So I'd recommend Nova. Maybe you'll find another provider, or maybe there's one that you like better. Go with them, but definitely try and mix up get a feel for the city if you haven't been driving in the city before. Um, they'll give you some tips, and then get a feel for around the test center. Mine was in Elston, so that's where we went. But maybe you want to do it in a different place. So just pick a school that can help you with that as well. So you have your permit, you've done some lessons, you're ready to go. Nice thing about Nova as well is that they basically booked the DMV appointment on my behalf. Otherwise, what you'll want to do is book appointment DMV. There is going to be a website here, and you can make an appointment for like your in-car driving test is what you want. So um, like once you click in through here and you do like in-car driving test, not all of them will always be available. So what you'll need to do is essentially, it seems, if you want to book it yourself, every 15 days, all of these venues release their bookings for 15 days out. I think it happens somewhere between like 6 a.m. and 7 a.m. Maybe it's 6:30 to 7:30. But essentially, each morning they release the dates and times that are available in 15 days time. So we'll say here for Bethelot, they have times available between now and then. But if you want to get in on like a Saturday, you're going to try and log on here 15 days before that, log on early and book in your time. There might be a different way of doing it. I know like at the DMV today, you can like scan a QR code and like book an appointment. So there could be other ways. I just know that this is the way that the state of Illinois is like pointing you towards throughout all their documentation. So either go through your school and get them to book it or book it yourself. But you're essentially going to end up, if you're like me, or essentially if you're around the loop and you want to get a test done, you'll end up at the Elston DMV. So it's kind of a nice one to go to because, again, you can't really drive out there yourself. So you can get the blue line to Jefferson Park. That's the O'Hare line. And then you can like Uber or walk to the DMV. When you arrive, you're going to be brought through like a greeting counter. You're going to get your photograph taken, and then the final step is the person who like runs through all of your materials and puts a little packet together so that you're ready for your in-car road test. It's the exact same documents that you need from your permit application. Again, if you're a first-time driver's license, and you want the real ID, it's document from A, B, and C, and 2 from D. We went through that. That's pretty straightforward. So you have everything done to this point. You have a little packet in hand from inside the office, and then you want to start your test. So you'll have been at, this is the DMV, it's on the left-hand side, lovely gray building. Essentially to get into the DMV, you like queue up around here. When your appointment time is scheduled, like if you're 8:30 in the morning, at maybe 8:25, 8:30 to start calling those people to queue up, and then you'll proceed in at like 8:30 a.m. if they're on time, and then all that document prep happens. When you're finished and they give you a little package, you are gonna get your car and you're gonna eventually end up driving it in over, difficult to show, but in past these orange bollards here. You pull up after, there's a little stop sign here now, and someone's going to come along and they'll check like your lights, your indicators, if your horn beeps, your brakes. They're just doing a physical check. I think they check your insurance as well on the car. That's an important thing to bring as well. You need to bring actually all of these elements plus car insurance. Again, if you go with the school, they'll give it to you. If not, you need to bring that yourself. But yeah, when your car physical test is done, I can't get over there anymore, but you'll end up behind this little building here. The instructor will hop in. Again, they'll check some of your materials and then they'll say, okay, let's proceed. So you will end up going out the gate over here. Just make sure you like stop at this stop sign. the guy today who I had was saying that he'd give me instructions for everything except for what you can do here because he said it's clearly indicated, i.e., just make sure that you know you can't make a left turn. So you're going to stop at the stop sign and slowly creep out, and then you're going to be on this road. So let me hop onto this road, but it's very straightforward, the whole test. You're going around this neighborhood. Let me see if I can bring this up a little bit. Oops. Well, what I'll show is you're essentially going around this whole sort of triangle here. They'll either make you turn left here because there's like a massive stop sign, or they'll get you to come on here and then turn left. But you're just going around this kind of triangle here if you wanted to practice in your own time. I'm sure there's different routes, but I'm pretty sure 99% plus of them take place in this area. And they're really testing left and right turns. Do you stop at stop signs and stop lights? I didn't even do like a U-turn, didn't have to parallel park. It was really straightforward. So I think my whole driving portion was like max 6 or 7 minutes. Tester was lovely. We kind of talked through it. He pointed out the 4 or 5 turns I needed to make, and then we came back to test center. When you are back at the test center, they'll get you to come in the far exit, which brings you down like this side, and eventually you'll end up coming all the way down here. Okay, despite my best efforts, I couldn't get down the far side here to show where there is their new like parking bay. But essentially it's they have like a barricade on the left and a barricade on the right. They'll ask you to just pull in nose first with the car, stop, and then reverse back out. And then from there you are gonna proceed up along this side here, and they'll either get you to park over where this gray car is or somewhere along where this red car is. Super straightforward. So yeah, that's essentially it. Once you finish, then the driving instructor will tell you if you're passed or failed. If you've passed, they're going to go into their office, come back out with a temporary permit. They'll hand you that, and then you're on your way. But really straightforward. So yeah, would highly recommend the path that I took. Visit your Secretary of State office and get your driver's permit. Use the likes of this DMV driving test app to look at the questions, and then do a bit of practice, whether it's with a school or with someone you know who has a car, preferably, and a full driver's license. Make your way to the DMV to do the road test, and it's all good to go. So yeah, you can easily do it within a week or 2 weeks if you get your timing right. But yeah, good luck. And if there's questions, drop them in the comment section below. Thank you.